There is a moment in every person's life when everything seems to collapse at once. A relationship ends unexpectedly. A trusted friend betrays you. Your career falls apart. You lose money. Your health declines. Suddenly, the life you carefully built begins to crack. Most people believe these events are what break them. But what if that belief itself is the greatest lie ever told? What if I told you that nothing outside of you has the power to destroy you unless you first allow it to enter your mind and take control? The ancient Stoics understood a truth that modern society has almost completely forgotten. They knew that the strongest fortress in existence is not built from stone or steel. It is built within the human mind. And once you learn how to strengthen that fortress, nothing and no one can truly break you. Stay with me until the end, because the final lesson may completely transform the way you experience pain, suffering, failure, and adversity forever. More than 1800 years ago, a man sat alone in his tent while war raged around him. Thousands of soldiers depended on his decisions. Plague spread throughout his empire. Political enemies constantly plotted against him. Every day brought uncertainty, suffering, and immense pressure. This man was Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome. By every modern standard, Marcus had every reason to live in fear, anxiety, and despair. Yet history remembers him not for collapsing under pressure, but for becoming one of the wisest and most resilient leaders humanity has ever known. What made Marcus different was not his circumstances. It was his mind. Every morning before facing the chaos of the world, Marcus reminded himself of something extraordinary. He wrote that he would encounter ungrateful, selfish, dishonest, jealous, and difficult people. He expected challenges, he expected disappointment, he expected pain, because he understood something that most people never realize. When you expect life to be easy, every hardship feels unbearable. But when you accept that difficulty is part of life, adversity loses much of its power over you. Today, many people wake up expecting perfect days, perfect relationships, perfect careers, and perfect outcomes. The moment reality fails to match those expectations, frustration, anger, and suffering appear. We become emotionally shattered, not because life is difficult, but because we believed it should not be. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you suffered, not because of what happened, but because reality refused to meet your expectations? Perhaps someone you trusted betrayed you. Perhaps you gave everything to a relationship only to watch it disappear. Maybe you worked tirelessly for success, yet still experienced failure. The pain was real, but often what hurt even more was the belief that things should have turned out differently. Stoicism teaches a radically different perspective. Instead of demanding that life obey your expectations, learn to align your expectations with reality. Life includes pain. Life includes loss. Life includes uncertainty. Life includes disappointment. These experiences are not signs that something has gone wrong. They are part of being human. This idea may sound uncomfortable, but it is incredibly liberating. Because once you stop fighting reality, you stop multiplying your suffering. The storm may still come, but it no longer destroys your inner peace. There is a Japanese proverb that says, "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." The oak appears powerful, but during a violent storm, its rigid resistance causes it to break. The bamboo survives because it adapts. Human beings are no different. Many people break because they resist every unwanted experience. They resist change. They resist uncertainty. They resist pain. In doing so, they exhaust themselves emotionally and mentally. Marcus Aurelius understood that resilience is not about controlling external events. It is about mastering your response to those events. And this brings us to the first life-changing Stoic lesson. The greatest threat to your peace is not the world around you. It is the uncontrolled mind within you. Most people unknowingly hand over control of their emotional state every single day. Someone criticizes them and their entire day is ruined. Someone ignores their message and anxiety consumes them. Someone succeeds and jealousy appears. A stranger on social media leaves a negative comment and suddenly self-doubt takes over. Without realizing it, people surrender the keys to their inner world to everyone around them. Epictetus warned against this nearly 2,000 years ago. Born into slavery, he experienced hardship from the very beginning of his life. Yet despite unimaginable suffering, Epictetus taught one of the most powerful principles in all of philosophy. Some things are within our control and some things are not. Your thoughts are within your control. Your actions are within your control. Your values are within your control. Your character is within your control. But other people's opinions are not. The past is not. Unexpected events are not. Economic conditions are not. Aging is not. A death itself is not. According to Epictetus, suffering begins when we attempt to control what cannot be controlled while neglecting what actually belongs to us. Consider how much energy people waste worrying about things they cannot change. They replay old conversations repeatedly. They obsess over mistakes made years ago. They worry endlessly about future disasters that may never occur. They seek approval from people who will never truly value them. This constant struggle creates emotional exhaustion. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents something outside your control. The opinion of others, past regrets, future fears, unresolved anger, unmet expectations. Year after year, the weight grows heavier until eventually many people collapse beneath burdens they were never meant to carry. Stoicism invites you to put the backpack down. Ask yourself a simple question whenever life becomes overwhelming. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, act courageously. If the answer is no, release it. This practice sounds simple, but it has extraordinary power. When someone insults you, you cannot control their behavior. You can only control your response. When life presents unexpected hardship, you cannot always change the situation immediately. But you can choose dignity, patience, and resilience. When rejection occurs, you cannot force someone to stay, but you can protect your self-respect and continue moving forward. Little by little, this mindset transforms you. You become less reactive, less anxious, less dependent on external validation, stronger, calmer, more free. And freedom is what every human being truly seeks. There is a story about a prisoner who spent decades confined behind iron bars. When finally released, he discovered something surprising. Although his body had been imprisoned, his mind had remained free because he never allowed external circumstances to define his identity. Many people living outside prison walls are far less free. They are imprisoned by resentment, imprisoned by fear, imprisoned by comparison, imprisoned by the opinions of others, imprisoned by their own thoughts. That Stoicism teaches that genuine freedom begins within. No person can humiliate you without your permission. No failure can define you without your agreement. No betrayal can destroy your character unless you abandon your values. This truth changes everything, because once you realize that your mind belongs to you, and only you, an extraordinary shift occurs. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and begin seeing yourself as the guardian of your inner world. Yet even after understanding this principle, millions of people continue suffering every day because they fall into a hidden psychological trap that silently steals peace, confidence, and happiness. And once you recognize this trap, you will never see your thoughts the same way again. Most people believe that every thought that enters their mind is true. They assume that because they think something, it must be reality. This single mistake has destroyed more dreams, relationships, and opportunities than almost anything else. The human mind is incredibly powerful, but it is also deeply flawed. It exaggerates danger. It replays painful memories. It predicts failure long before failure ever arrives. It creates stories that often have little connection to reality. Yet millions of people spend their entire lives obeying these stories without ever questioning them. Think about how many times your mind has lied to you. It told you that you were not good enough. It told you that you would fail. It told you that everyone was judging you. It told you that rejection meant you were unworthy. It told you that because you made mistakes in the past, your future could never be different. And perhaps the most dangerous lie of all, it convinced you that difficult moments would last forever. Seneca understood this tendency better than most people ever will. He famously wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Consider how profound that statement truly is. So much of human suffering exists only inside the mind. People lose sleep over conversations that have not happened. They experience anxiety about events that may never occur. They repeatedly relive painful experiences long after those experiences have ended. They fight imaginary battles every single day. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest at night. In the darkness, you notice strange shapes between the trees. Your heart races. Fear takes over. Your imagination begins creating terrifying possibilities. You become convinced danger is everywhere. But when morning arrives and sunlight fills the forest, you realize that what appeared threatening was nothing more than shadows. Many of your fears operate exactly the same way. The uncontrolled mind creates shadows and then convinces you they are monsters. This does not mean that problems are not real. Difficulties are real. Pain is real. Loss is real. But the mind often adds unnecessary suffering on top of unavoidable pain. One setback becomes a catastrophe. One rejection becomes proof of inadequacy. One failure becomes evidence that success is impossible. Stoicism teaches that between every event and every emotional reaction, there exists a space. Inside that space lives your power, Marcus. Aurelius wrote that if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Read that. Again, you have the power to revoke it. This is not easy. It requires awareness, discipline, and practice. But once developed, it becomes one of the greatest forms of strength a human being can possess. The next time adversity appears, pause before reacting. Observe your thoughts. Ask yourself whether your interpretation is helping or harming you. Ask yourself whether you are responding to reality or simply responding to fear. This small habit can transform your entire life. Modern psychology strongly supports this Stoic principle. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective psychological treatments ever developed, is based on a remarkably similar idea. Thoughts influence emotions, and emotions influence behavior. Change the interpretation, and you often change the experience itself. A person loses a job. One individual thinks my life is over. Anxiety and hopelessness immediately appear. Another thinks this is painful, but perhaps it is also an opportunity to grow. Determination appears. Instead, the event remained identical, only the interpretation changed. The difference between emotional collapse and emotional resilience often lies in the stories people tell themselves. Unfortunately, there is another mental habit that quietly destroys countless lives. It is the habit of resisting reality. Human beings spend enormous amounts of energy wishing that reality were different. They resist aging. They resist change. They resist endings. They resist uncertainty. They resist loss. They say things like this should not be happening to me or life is unfair, yet reality remains unchanged, and while fighting reality, they create additional suffering for themselves. Epictetus taught that we should not seek for events to happen as we wish, but instead wish them to happen as they do happen, and our lives will go smoothly. This does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean approving of injustice or refusing to improve circumstances. It means accepting reality as it exists before deciding how to respond. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. Imagine a sailor caught in a violent storm. He cannot command the wind. He cannot stop the waves. If he wastes energy denying the storm, he will sink. But if he accepts the storm and adapts accordingly, he dramatically increases his chances of survival. Life works the same way. Many people become trapped because they refuse to accept painful truths. A relationship has ended, yet they refuse to let go. A chapter of life has closed, yet they desperately cling to the past. Circumstances have changed, yet they continue fighting what can no longer be changed. The result is prolonged suffering. There is a powerful story about a man who lost nearly everything during an economic collapse. He lost his business, his home, and much of his savings. For months he remained consumed by anger, bitterness, and self-pity. He constantly repeated that life had treated him unfairly. He isolated himself from family and friends. His suffering deepened. One day an older mentor asked him a simple question: "Are you suffering because of what happened or because you refuse to accept that it happened?" The question changed everything. Gradually, the man stopped arguing with reality. He accepted his losses. He accepted his mistakes. He accepted that the past could not be rewritten. Then did healing begin. Within a few years, he rebuilt his life stronger and wiser than before. Transformation often begins the moment resistance ends. This principle appears repeatedly throughout history. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He could have allowed bitterness to consume him. He could have remained psychologically imprisoned long after leaving his cell. Instead, he accepted his circumstances while preserving his dignity, purpose, and vision. That decision changed not only his own life, but the course of history itself. The Stoics understood that adversity reveals character. Comfort rarely teaches us who we truly are. Difficulty does. When life removes status, possessions, relationships, or certainty, what remains? Your character remains, your values remain, your choices remain, and these are the things that no external force can take from you. A fire can destroy your possessions. Failure can damage your reputation. People can betray your trust, but courage, wisdom, integrity, self-respect, and resilience remain available as long as you choose them. This is why truly strong people appear calm during chaos. They understand that while circumstances constantly change, their character remains under their control. Yet, there is one final Stoic principle that separates ordinary individuals from extraordinary ones. It is the principle that allowed ancient philosophers, emperors, warriors, and leaders to remain unbreakable in the face of unimaginable suffering. And once you fully understand it, your relationship with hardship itself may change forever. The final principle is perhaps the most powerful lesson Stoicism has to offer. It is the idea that adversity is not the enemy. Adversity is the teacher. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid discomfort. They run from pain. They fear failure. They avoid rejection. They resist hardship. They believe that a good life is a life without struggle. But the Stoics saw things differently. They understood that the very experiences people try hardest to avoid are often the experiences that shape the strongest human beings. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think about that for a moment. The obstacle is not blocking your path. The obstacle is the path. Every challenge carries within it the possibility of transformation. Every setback contains a lesson. Every hardship offers an opportunity to become someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Consider how steel is created. Raw metal is exposed to intense heat and tremendous pressure. Without fire, there is no strength. Without pressure, there is no resilience. Human beings are no different. Many of the strongest people you admire today were forged through suffering. They experienced betrayal. They endured failure. They survived heartbreak. They faced loss. They encountered moments when giving up seemed easier than continuing. Yet those experiences did not destroy them. Those experiences refined them. There is a story about a young man who spent years chasing success. He wanted wealth, status, and recognition. He worked relentlessly, believing that achievement alone would bring happiness. But despite all his effort, he repeatedly failed. Businesses collapsed. Opportunities disappeared. Friends distanced themselves. Eventually, he reached a point where he felt completely broken. One evening, overwhelmed by disappointment, he visited his grandfather. After listening quietly, the old man placed two objects on the table. One was a lump of coal. The other was a diamond. He asked his grandson what separated the two. The young man answered that one was valuable and the other was not. The grandfather smiled. "No," he said, "they are made from the same substance. The difference is that one endured extraordinary pressure." That conversation changed the young man's life. Instead of viewing adversity as proof of inadequacy, he began viewing adversity as preparation. He stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this teaching me?" Slowly, everything changed. His failures taught humility. His loneliness taught self-reliance. His setbacks taught perseverance. His pain taught compassion. Years later, he realized that the very experiences he once hated had become the foundation of his strength. This is the Stoic transformation. Pain becomes wisdom. Failure becomes experience. Loss becomes perspective. Difficulty becomes strength. Seneca once said that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body. Modern society often encourages comfort above all else. People seek constant entertainment, constant validation, and constant distraction. But comfort rarely produces greatness. Growth lives outside comfort. Courage lives outside comfort. Transformation lives outside comfort. Every meaningful achievement requires discomfort. The athlete embraces physical pain. The entrepreneur embraces uncertainty. The leader embraces criticism. The individual seeking self-mastery embraces discipline. The question is not whether discomfort will appear in your life. It will. The real question is whether you will allow discomfort to weaken you or strengthen. You ancient Stoics practiced voluntary hardship for this very reason. Sometimes they slept on hard surfaces. Sometimes they fasted. Sometimes they intentionally lived with less. Why? Because they wanted to remind themselves that they could survive difficulty. They trained their minds before adversity arrived. Today you can apply the same principle in modern life. Wake up early, even when you do not feel like it. Exercise when excuses appear. Remain calm when others lose. Control. Choose discipline when comfort calls your name. Speak truth even when silence feels safer. Keep your promises to yourself. Every small act of self-discipline strengthens the mind. Every time you do what is difficult rather than what is easy, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. Eventually, these small choices create an unshakable character. Imagine two people facing the same crisis. One has spent years avoiding discomfort, seeking approval, and depending on external circumstances for happiness. The other has spent years cultivating discipline, gratitude, emotional control, and self-respect. When adversity arrives, which person remains standing? Preparation determines resilience. The Stoics knew this. That is why they never waited for hardship to begin building strength. They built strength every day. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Nothing outside of you can truly break you. Not failure, not rejection, not betrayal, not criticism, not loss. These experiences may wound you. They may hurt deeply. They may leave scars. But scars are not signs of weakness. Scars are evidence that you survived. Your circumstances do not define you. Your past does not define you. Other people's opinions do not define you. What defines you is how you choose to respond. In every moment, life asks the same question. Will you surrender your mind to fear, anger, resentment, and despair? Or will you reclaim your power? Because no matter what happens around you, there is always one thing that remains yours, your response, and within that response lies your freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every single day that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Realize this, and you will find peace. Realize this, and nothing can break you. If this message resonated with you, write the word unbreakable in the comments below. Let that word become a promise to yourself. A promise that no matter what challenges life brings you will continue moving forward with courage, wisdom, and self-respect. And if you want more powerful Stoic lessons designed to strengthen your mind, transform your life, and help you become emotionally unstoppable, make sure to subscribe and join this growing community of modern Stoics. Remember, master your mind and nothing can break you.